Welcome to the In My Defense podcast, where we chop it up about sports, culture, and life the way it was meant to be discussed. Bold takes, thoughtful analysis, and real talk. Nothing's personal, but in my defense. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Got to bring in my brother Q. What's good, bro?
Not much, Brody. Not much, Brody. A good week of sports. Your Giants, they made you feel good this week, I bet.
Yeah, they have opened their heart to Dart. Let's go. My boy started Jaxson Dart. He went in there and did his thing. Giants got the dub. Not flashy numbers, but
No.
effective. He was a playmaker, using his legs, using his arm. It sucks that we lost Malik Neighbors, but I am encouraged by how the team as a whole responded to Jaxson Dart. That defense, them boys was out there hunting. Brian
Mm-hmm.
Burns, Abdul Carter, Kayvon Thibodeau. You see Sexy Dexy out there getting the interception. Almost got the legendary thick six. He almost got it to the zone.
Yeah.
Almost. But on the whole, man, it's a reason to be excited as a Giants fan, as a former player. Look, I have no illusions about what the team is going to do. We ain't going to the postseason. We ain't going to the chip. But you do want to see the team form an identity around the quarterback that they moved up to take in the first round. And I'm excited. So far, so good for number 6 and for Big Blue.
Yeah. We'll talk a little bit more about that game. But like you said, they moved up to get him. We'll talk a little bit about the quarterback. They did. Everybody thought they were going to move up to get Shador, now being the third stringer.
Oh,
Still, I'm trying to figure that out.
yeah.
But we got a loaded show for everybody today. We're going to talk about everything from first whistle, as you have seen every week, where we talk about the hot topics in sports. We'll also do a little bit of 99 Problems, new segment. We're going to have my guy Canty go off a little bit in 99 Problems. And then, as always, we have a theme for this week. This week's theme is redemption, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But let's start out with first whistle. So there is a lot going on right now with Napheesa Collier, affectionately called Fee, from the Minnesota Lynx. She's getting some eyeballs with the words she said about the current commissioner of the WNBA and just how the players are not being paid their worth and the discussions around them. Canty, I know you've been very, very critical while you've been on the screen, but I definitely want to hear you sign off on what you think about what's going on with that situation.
Yeah, here's the thing. And Napheesa Collier, what folks need to know is she is more than qualified to criticize WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelberg in the league office as a whole. You need to understand she is the vice president of the union for the players in the WNBA. She is the co-founder of Unrivaled, the one-on-one sports league in the winter for women's basketball. Her husband is the man behind the league. He actually runs the league.
Mm-hmm.
So she is uniquely qualified to raise these concerns, to raise these criticisms around the officiating, around the pay disparity, so on and so forth. My issue with Napheesa Collier is not the message, but the messenger and the timing of it. Because I don't know that we're having this conversation around the officiating, around the rise in injuries, around the pay gap, if Napheesa Collier's Minnesota Lynx don't get knocked out of the playoffs by the Phoenix Mercury. Remember, in game 3 of the semifinals, at the end of the game, Napheesa Collier was ripped by Alyssa Thomas. It was a good no call by the officials. Every person that is officiating in a pro sports league in basketball has chimed in on it and said it was a good no call. They
Mm-hmm.
end up losing game 3. Their coach ends up sounding off about the officials. She gets ejected from the game, subsequently is suspended in game 4. And then all of a sudden, the Minnesota Lynx get bounced by the Phoenix Mercury. The Mercury punched their ticket to the WNBA Finals. I don't know that we're in this place where Napheesa Collier has a 4-minute written statement crushing the commissioner, bringing up private conversations, bringing up things that are to be argued, negotiated in the CBA negotiations that are going to be happening this fall on into this winter. I don't know that we're talking about those things right now if her team doesn't get bounced from the playoffs and in the fashion that it happened. And I guess that's my issue because these issues are far too important that she's raising to bring any cloud of suspicion on her motivation as to why she's bringing them up. Again, she is more than qualified to discuss these issues. My problem is the timing of it.
Now, the media did definitely ask her if you were still playing and you guys were going to make it to the finals, would you still had said the same thing? And she said yes. How much do you believe it, or do you think it's really just hey, right now I have the moment, I have the platform, and I'm not going to be in front of thousands of fans playing in the finals.
Well, here's the thing. If you're truly doing what's in the best interest of the game, then why would you want to give a statement in your exit interview that's going to
Mm-hmm.
completely overshadow game 5 of the other semifinal series and
Yep.
determine whether or not the 4-time MVP in Asia Wilson is actually going to get back to the WNBA finals? I mean, at this point, the Las Vegas Aces might as well have a residency in the WNBA finals. They are out in Vegas. They do that out there. But why would you want to overshadow that? So again, there are issues that need to be raised, but I don't know the timing of it. If you're worried about the poor officiating and how it's given rise to injuries, then why don't you say that when players throughout the league during the regular season are getting hurt? Why didn't you say that when Caitlin Clark was lost for the season?
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't you invoke Caitlin Clark then rather than invoking her now? And here's the other thing that a lot of people don't want to say out loud, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it because that's what we do on In My Defense.
Yeah, say it,
It is
Canty.
it is nasty work for Caitlin Clark to be treated the way she's been treated by other WNBA players in her first 2 years. And then Napheesa Collier and others invoke Caitlin Clark when they talk about getting paid what they believe they're owed by the league. So you want the league to embrace this new wave of talent and the rise in the tide and the windfall that you feel like you are owed, but yet, when you're on the court, you want to give Caitlin Clark the business. And I'm not talking about just playing hard and playing physical. We're talking
Mm-hmm.
about above and beyond. Remember what Kennedy Carter did to Caitlin Clark last year when she hip checked the girl when she got an inbounds pass. That had nothing to do with basketball. And
No.
there's been a lot of discourse around Caitlin Clark and players having animus toward her because of the outside amount of attention and focus that she gets. Yet, in Napheesa Collier's comments, she invokes Caitlin Clark and she's asking the question about why WNBA players, why rookies coming into the league, first, second, third year players are not getting paid more money than what they are. These are all issues to be brought up in collective bargaining, but yet Napheesa Collier decides she's going to conflate those issues with the issue of player safety, officiating, and the overall integrity of the game. The messaging is not clear, and the messenger, given the timing of it, could not be worse.
100%. I think it's just bad timing. It's in bad taste, and like you said, nasty work. Would
Nasty
be
work.
nasty work
Nasty work.
to just sit here and take this opportunity because it does create now a shadow over what I think is going to be a great finals. I think 100% having the Aces back in there. Let's see if they got a little redemption. No pun intended. And being able to come back and win a championship. And then you also have a Phoenix Mercury team that has got it out the mud.
Yeah.
No pun intended. They have risen like a phoenix, and I'm excited to see what that game, those games will be like. But for Napheesa Collier to take this moment, I think just on another note, I think it's an ounce of bravery. Um, we don't know what can be the repercussion. The WNBA has been very heavy on fines this year. If you spoke out on the refs, you spoke out on what you didn't like, be it the officials, ownership, or league leadership. However, Napheesa Collier has a background that shows when she speaks, it means something.
Yeah.
She's not only a cog in a machine, but she's one of the best players in the league. Being able to average 23 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals at that. I
Yeah,
think
she's a dog. She's a
yeah,
dog. There's no question about
100%.
it. Yeah.
And I think I give her an ounce of love for her bravery to have somebody of a player of her stature. And the Asia Wilson came out and backed her.
Mhm.
Having players like that speak up. However, for the actual sitting commissioner, I'm a little bit worried about how this looks for the future of her job. Now, for you, if you have to go into those meetings and negotiate your CBAs and everybody in the league does not trust the sitting commissioner, how do you walk out that room and how do you get a deal done?
Well, listen, players not liking the current commissioner is nothing novel. That's nothing new. I mean, I came into the league in the NFL. Paul Tagliabue was the commissioner. We couldn't stand Paul Tagliabue until we got Roger Goodell as our commissioner, and then we reminisced on how great we had it under Paul Tagliabue. So that's just the nature of the job. I don't know that there's going to be any serious repercussions, any type of action taken toward Kathy Engelbert, because Kathy Engelbert ultimately does not work for the WNBA players. she works for the WNBA owners.
Mm-hmm.
And based on the new rights deal that was negotiated by the league, paying them billions of dollars, ultimately she's doing what the WNBA team owners want her to do: expand the league, grow revenue. That's happening. The WNBA has not been profitable up until this point in their history, almost 3 decades now, but it's trending toward the black. So they're moving in the right direction, and Kathy Engelbert is a big part of that. So Napheesa Collier feeling some type of way about her, I don't think ultimately changes anything. I think these are two sides of an entertainment product that are by nature adversarial, and that's just what it is. The question will be, how is this received in the court of public opinion? Because ultimately, you are selling an entertainment product and you want people to consume it. So, this public infighting, how is that received? And then how does that impact the product? And last thing I'll say, because we are cascading toward a lockout in the WNBA, this is a sports league that is at an inflection point, and they can ill afford to have a lockout, to miss games like we saw with Major League Baseball in the mid 90s. They had a lockout, they didn't have a World Series in the mid 90s, and ultimately they gave share in that sports and entertainment space to the NFL. Remember, baseball, for the majority of this country's life, was this country's pastime.
Mm-hmm.
That is now a bygone era. It's football. And
Yep.
that's the damage that a CBA negotiation and a lockout, a work stoppage can create when it comes to sports and entertainment.
Now, before we pivot to some more topics, I would want to ask you one thing on this: how the WNBA should play the players, because I do agree. Um, you do see the rights growing. You do see now media deals growing. However, my question is around: is this now a players' league? Because you have people like Caitlin Clark that came into the league and brought their fans. You have Angel Reese brought their fans. Paige brought her fans. When Juju get healthy, Juju. When Juju gets healthy, she'll bring her fans. I
Mm-hmm.
think their NCAA greatness and how now you have name, image, and likeness, excuse me, growing these players' brands and making them wealthy. I think they're bringing a lot of the easy conversation and negotiation to these media rights. Um, I don't think the commissioner has much left to have to do when you have a Caitlin Clark and you have an Angel Reese going against each other.
Yeah, listen, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese remind me of what happened in the NBA in the late 70s, early 80s with Magic and Bird, right?
Mhm.
Two college rivals, um, two different Americas, and both of those players representing their respective aspects of that, and then having this collision course where they compete for championships for the better part of that decade. Magic and Bird saved the NBA in the 80s. There is no
Yeah.
question about it. The NBA is not what we know it today without those two.
Nope.
And I feel like the WNBA is at that point with Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. Now, this is nothing that they did to deserve that, but the fact that the league was able to stay afloat until they had this phenomenon, I think is huge. And that's why this is a time where the league office, the owners, the players, they need to work hand in glove to continue to grow the game. It is a partnership and it needs to be viewed as such. And so when Napheesa Collier reveals the private comments that Kathy Engelbert made about how the players should thank their lucky stars, that she negotiated a rights deal, how Caitlin Clark should be on her knees giving thanks that she's
Hmm.
making 60 million off the court because of the platform that the WNBA gives her. That's the wrong mentality. That's the wrong attitude. They ain't sharecropping. This ain't no plantation. They are partners in creating an entertainment product. And so, if in fact that is what Kathy Engelbert said to Napheesa Collier about the WNBA players and about Caitlin Clark in particular, then Kathy Engelbert should be forced to resign because that is an absolute embarrassment. You can't say things like that when you are one of the faces of the sport.
For me, I think we're going to see in the coming months what this becomes. Not only for Fee to see how potentially she might be reprimanded, for saying what she said, but
Oh,
also,
I don't think she's going to get reprimanded. I don't think there's going to be anything that comes of it because here's the thing: there's a bigger picture involved. And one thing about rich people, they love making more money.
mhm.
And Napheesa Collier and Asia Wilson and Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and all of the other stars of the WNBA help to generate revenue. And so the WNBA owners are not in this for the kindness of their heart. There is a monetary benefit to them owning the teams, right? And so I think this will be water under the bridge. This will be a footnote in what will be one of the most contentious collective bargaining agreements that we've seen negotiated in some time. Remember, during the WNBA All Star Weekend, the ladies came out with the "Pay Us What You Owe Us" T-shirts. Now,
Yeah.
here's the thing: I hate the slogan because you don't get paid what you're owed; you get paid what you negotiate. That's just business, but
Mhm.
that's sports business in particular. But they've already started laying the groundwork for a fight, and it seems like the WNBA commissioner and the WNBA owners are willing to oblige. So this is going to get really, really interesting. Again, I hope cooler heads prevail because there's so much more to be gained. But the league is in a vulnerable position. This is an inflection point. And I hope that both sides handle this with the decorum, with the delicacy that the sport deserves.
I agree. Listen, you will often hear me say 100%. You're gonna get a couple thousand%. Don't worry. But I
Ah,
know
I'm
what
waiting
we're
on it. I'm waiting on it.
I know what we're at the 1,000% hype about. We're hype about the Jedi Jackson Dart. Uh, I know you're hype about that.
Hey,
100 and
He went from a Padawan to a Jedi overnight.
yes, sir.
Padawan to a Jedi. Let's go.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I'm excited about the fact that one, Scatterable, 79 yards, Giants defense, 2 sacks, 2 intos, but Jackson Dart had himself a game. He was able to get 165 all-purpose yards, 2 touchdowns, one on the ground, one through the air. And I love the energy, the big energy that you're getting from those giant rookies. Scatterable
Oh, you had to
adds a
love the
little
Selly too,
swag.
though. You saw Jackson Dart hit the Selly after the touchdown run, right? Where he swagged out a little bit. Like that.
Yeah.
That's the. Those are the. Listen, I know people gloss over those types of things, but to see that type of enthusiasm from him and to see his teammates respond in kind with a similar level of energy, that's important when it comes to the team trying to form an identity and create a culture that allows them to be competitive into the future. So I don't want to understate the value of Jackson Dart inspiring those guys in that locker room because you saw them play inspired football in their win over the Chargers in week 4.
Now, on another note, we had an undefeated team. Somebody O had to go. There's a lot of O's that went.
Yeah.
Justin Herbert, he had a decent game. However, he had some late picks
Yeah.
in timely moments.
Yeah, Justin Herbert got his ass whooped by that Giants defensive front. They was hunting him all game long. They was on him. They was on him. They was on him, and that boy folded like a cheap suit. Now, I thought that Justin Herbert going into that Giants game
Mhm.
was playing at an MVP level. There was no quarterback in my mind that was playing better football than Justin Herbert, especially in late game moments. Now, I do think that his tackle, Joe Alt, getting injured, hurt. You got to remember, the Los Angeles Chargers lost their starting left tackle, Rashawn Slater, to injury before the start of the season. Second year right tackle Joe Alt moved over to left tackle.
Yeah.
And then he was lost in the first half of that Giants game. And you could see that that unit was somewhat reeling. And the Giants defensive front, which is, in my opinion, the strength of the team, went to work. Those guys dominated. So I think they deserve a ton of credit for playing with that type of energy and overwhelming a Chargers offense that started the season hot.
100%, 1,000%. We're all about Big Blue.
There
You
we
see how I did that?
go.
You
There
see
we
how I did
go.
that?
I see what you
The,
did there.
but there's some good matchups coming up too for both teams, and I would love to see how they react. We have the Giants versus the Saints at 1 p.m. on Sunday.
Yeah.
How do you think Jackson Dart is going to show up? He did lose his biggest weapon. Napier get better soon. I know you was at that concert. My son was at that same concert. Y'all got to chill.
Yeah. Leak getting hurt is a big one because
Yeah.
he's arguably the best player on the team. So Leak getting hurt is a problem. But the fact that Jaxson Dart was able to navigate most of that game without him
Mhm.
just shows the moxie that kid had. He was very democratic in spreading the football around, getting into other receivers. I think the balance in the run game with Cam Scatterboo stepping in, that's huge, man. And so you got that all rookie backfield. Those guys, they don't know what they don't know. There's a certain level of naivete. But because of that, those guys go out there and they play with a lot more confidence than you would expect for guys going into their first half of the NFL career.
Now, for the Chargers, they meet the Commanders. I don't know for sure. You could correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think Jalen is playing this game either, uh, unless we get something last minute. But do you think there's going to be a recovery? I feel like that defense is starting to settle. If you get what I'm saying, and that offense losing their tackles, how is Justin Herbert going to respond?
Listen, man, I don't know what either one of those teams really is. And I think that's the interesting part about that game. I don't know what they are. I believe that the LA Chargers were one of the five best teams in the NFL. Well, then they come across the country to MetLife Stadium against a winless Giants team and they get smoked. So I don't know. Now, is that a product of the schedule? Remember, the LA Chargers started in Brazil for the regular season. Then they had a road Monday night game against the Las Vegas Raiders. Then in week 3, short week against a tough division rival in the Denver Broncos. Those guys really beat up Justin Herbert. They got a lot of hits on the quarterback. And then you fly across the country for a 1 o'clock kick. You know how West Coast teams traveling east playing at that 1 o'clock time slot, that's tough on them. Remember, 1 o'clock is really, really early West Coast time. That's 10 a.m. Pacific time. So I'm wondering if the Chargers just got caught slipping. They got caught sleeping, literally and figuratively. So that's the part that I'm interested to see. Can the Chargers bounce back and be more of what I thought they were after the first 3 weeks of the season?
How about this? We had a tie in that revenge game with the Cowboys and the Packers.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to see a little bit more. I'm pretty sure you guys thought you were going to see a little bit more. We had a 40-40 tie, multiple lead change, historic finish. For me, when I was watching the game, Love had a lot of missed throws. He had one in the second quarter that could have went to Dobbs. He was right there. All he had to do was put it in the breadbasket.
Oh, what
That
about
was
the
a walk in.
interception that they threw in the second quarter that got called back because the Cowboys had too many men on the field?
Mm,
There are certain things, and that's the part where I want to believe in the Packers because they got a hell of a lot of talent.
yep.
But man, Jordan Love, he is Jekyll and Hyde, man. Sometimes he'll make a throw and you're like, man, that is channeling Aaron Rodgers. That is channeling Brett Favre. That's a bad motherfucker. But
Yeah.
then there's other plays where you're like, damn,
He
that
gave a little
motherfucker
Derek
bad.
Carr,
That
huh?
motherfucker bad.
He,
Like
he
he's
gave
just terrible. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's feast or famine with Jordan Love. It's always the extremes on the spectrum. And in order for the Green Bay Packers to realize the potential that this team has, he has to be a stabilizing force within the franchise. And right now, he is not playing that way. Now, I will say this: the play caller Matt LaFleur has to show a lot more maturity than he has over the last couple of weeks. Go back to that loss they had in Week 3 against the Cleveland Browns. They
Mhm.
had 3rd and 3 at the end of the game. They still had a lead. And rather than salting it away with running the football, they decide to put the ball in the air, ends up being an interception, setting up a point blank touchdown opportunity for the Cleveland Browns. Now, the Cleveland Browns, up until that moment in the game, had done absolutely nothing.
No hope.
If you're Matt LaFleur, punt is a good play. Why are you pushing the issue by throwing the football? Even if it's a high percentage throw, it's still more risky than a run. Run the damn ball. If you punt the
Hmm.
ball and force them to drive the length of the field and they beat you that way, God bless. But he didn't do that. And so it's frustrating to see that. Go back to the end of the first half against the Dallas Cowboys. They're putting the ball in the air with less than 30 seconds left. And what happens? Sack fumble, setting up, point blank scoring opportunity for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yep.
Touchdown Cowboys going to the half with a lead. Those are types of things that cannot happen. Again, not absolving the quarterback of blame because he's got to protect the football even in the pocket. But if you're Matt LaFleur, you need to take a long, hard look in the mirror, bro, because you are part of the problem when it comes to this offense not getting right too.
Now, what happens? We got another season. Let's say if they don't make the game, you believe that they had the potential to get to the NFC Championship game.
I think the Packers have the ability to level up with the Philadelphia Eagles. I think they are one of 3 teams that are truly Super Bowl or bust.
Now, what
Truly.
happens when they bust? Pause. But what happens?
Come on, bruh. You can't say that, man. Yo, I say this. I say this. If the Green Bay Packers don't get to the Super Bowl, then it is on the table that the Dallas Cowboys won the Michael Parsons trade.
Yep.
I mean, that's just what it is. To give up 2 first-round draft picks, to give up a Pro Bowl caliber defensive lineman in Kenny Clark, to give up a contract paying Michael Parsons $47 million a year with $120 million guaranteed. You are making that decision to go to the Super Bowl, bro.
Yeah.
You're not making that to come close. You go in there to try to win the chip. And if you don't get to the chip, if you don't win the chip, then the move is a failure. There's only going to be one team that's happy at the end of the season. And the Green Bay Packers feel like they could be that team. That's why they make that move. If they don't get there in the window that they created with this core of players over the next 2 or 3 seasons, then it is absolutely a failure. And it is on the board that the Dallas Cowboys, after getting criticized, might have actually won this trade.
Yeah, and just like any other show, we got to talk a little Cowboys, and I want to lean into that.
Oh yeah,
because
that's part of our weekly quota.
yeah, I want to lean into that because I think when CD comes back, the way Pickens was balling this game, oh man, I would love to see if Dak can really just make sure both of them get the ball, do what they have to do. But that looks like a crazy tandem when they really get going.
Oh yeah, them boys, let me tell you something. Them boys healthy are a problem.
Yes,
George
sir. Yes,
Pickens
sir.
is one of the best, if not the best, contested catch receiver in the NFL. And CeeDee Lamb is a top 3, top 4 receiver in the league. Just the route running, the quickness, the agility, the
Hmm.
speed, the hands. CD is a fool out there. So with those guys on the field at the same time, if the Cowboys offensive line can keep Dak upright, then I anticipate that this Cowboys offense is going to be good enough to make the Dallas Cowboys a team that can give people some problems as we move through the season. Got to keep in mind, Dak Prescott, when he starts and finishes an entire season, the Cowboys have never had a losing record. Not ever. So if Dak Prescott can stay healthy, you can guarantee that the Cowboys are going to be 500 or better. You can book it. And so that's where we are right now. Dak is leading the league in passing. He's playing at a really high level. I mean, he's been awesome. Now you're starting to see him even use his legs as a weapon like he did earlier on in his career because
Yep.
he's lost some weight in the offseason. So,
Hmm.
again, CeeDee Lamb, when he gets back and he's healthy, when that offensive line is whole, that offense can create some problems for some people. Now, listen, that defense is a problem for the Dallas Cowboys. And I don't know how they fix that. I don't know if they can fix that. But I think this offense can find its way to winning in shootouts on any given week.
Yeah, and when you got a running back named Javante, you know he gonna tote that rock.
Yeah,
So
he's gonna throw the rock. You just hope he holds on to the ball.
I was about to say that. I was about to say that. Now switching lanes, we had another game, and a lot of people took something that we said first. You know, we're not on TV every day, but we said it first. We talked about how the disparaging difference in the matchup between Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson was, I believe it was 5 and 6 at the time. That was we know what it is now.
Yeah. I mean, Lamar is 1-5 against Patrick Mahomes going into week 4. Now Lamar is 1-6. Not great.
Yeah, at
Not great.
all. Not at all. And then
Not
also he's
great.
hurt. He's hurt. Soft
Yeah.
tissue. Soft tissues can be very, very weird.
Yeah, hamstrings. Turns out you need those to play football. Who knew?
Yeah. Especially if
knew?
you was a sprinter, you can't run that much.
Nah, who knew you needed hamstrings? Who
Should
knew?
you be worried about Lamar though for the rest of the season? We know soft tissue things you can feel like you're good this week and then the wrong thing. And
Yeah, I'm not worried about Lamar. He'll be back after the bye week. Like they've got the Houston Texans in week 5. They've got the I believe it's the LA Rams in week 6. And then after that, they have a bye week. So the reports are out there that Lamar is going to be out 2 to 3 weeks. That time's up with Lamar coming back after the bye week. That's fine. I just don't know that the Ravens will have anything to play for after the bye week because you could be looking at 1-5. If you lose to the Houston Texans in week 5, if you lose to the LA Rams in week 6, then you're 1-5 going into a game against the Chicago Bears. And at that point, based on what the Pittsburgh Steelers have shown through the first quarter of the season, who knows if there'd be anything to play for? It seems like a division title would be off the table. It seems like a playoff appearance would be off the table. 1-5. If you start the season losing 5 of your first 6 games, you're not going to the playoffs, dog. It just ain't happening. Now, I hate to be a person that is negative in that way because I remember losing 4 straight games in a season where the New York Giants won the Super Bowl. But that was after the team started out 6-2. The Baltimore Ravens could potentially start out 1-5. They're 1-3 right now. If they lose the next 2 games, they're 1-5. I don't know how they pull out of that nosedive at that point in the season, whether Lamar is there or not. And let's remember, they still got a hell of a lot of other injuries that they're dealing with. Ronnie Stanley, their all-world left tackle, banged up. Marlon Humphrey, all-pro corner, banged up. Kyle Van Noy, who led the team in sacks last year, beat up. Nnamdi Madubuike, he's out for the season, played at an all-pro level once upon a time. He's gone. So they've got a lot of holes. Roquan Smith, all-pro linebacker, he's banged up. They've got a lot of holes because of injuries, and I'm not quite sure Lamar Jackson fixes all of that. Hell, Lamar Jackson couldn't make it all work when they had everybody. So, again, if you start out the season 1-5, 8-ball says doubtful that you're going to be able to get into the playoffs.
The 8-ball is wrong sometimes. Sometimes. Like, if you would have told me Xavier Worthy was going to come back like that.
I want the 8-ball Lamar Jackson to prove me wrong. I want him to prove me wrong. I'm a former Baltimore Raven. I got blood in the ground. I got an investment in that organization's success. I want them to win. I want Lamar individually to win, to prove all of the naysayers wrong. I just don't feel like that's going to happen this season.
I agree. And I think Patty Mahomes is showing people that not he's back, but who he really is, being able to get 4 touchdowns. I think they said this is the first time in several weeks since he's had a 4 touchdown game. Not even just several weeks. I think it's been more.
You're buying into the Chiefs having everything fixed, huh?
I'm not buying it in.
Drinking the Kool-Aid?
I'm not buying into it. No, I don't drink. I don't drink the Kool-Aid. It's too sweet. I can't drink that no more. I'm old.
You like Jim Jones? You drinking the Kool-Aid?
No, I can't drink Kool-Aid no more. Ocean spray for me. I can't do Kool-Aid.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
But again, he still showed up, and then we seen that Xavier Worthy came back. He gave you a good 83 yards. Their weapons are clicking. Although I don't think that it's a complete turnaround.
Yeah.
The Chiefs are looking like the Chiefs. A little bit.
The Chiefs look like the Chiefs against the Baltimore Ravens defense. Talk to me when they actually play a defense that's worth their salt, right? I mean, the Baltimore Ravens defense is the slump buster. Mm-hmm. Just like playing against the New York Giants with Russell Wilson, that was the lowest of bars to clear. For God's sakes, at the end of that game, Russ had a 4th down in the red zone when they were down and threw the ball out the back of the end zone. That wasn't, again.
It wasn't good.
That was one of those games where you just had to avoid getting in your own way and you were going to win it. So I do think Xavier Worthy coming back helps. Rashee Rice, when he comes back, is going to help. But I still have questions about this Kansas City Chiefs team. And really not their defense. It's more so the offense. They can't run the ball. They can't. So they're a one-dimensional offense, and they're putting an inordinate amount of pressure on Patrick Mahomes. Now, Patrick Mahomes, any given week, is the best player on the planet. But I do wonder how sustainable it is to have the kind of offensive output that we saw against the Ravens in week 4 against better teams, knowing that the Kansas City Chiefs are one-dimensional and can't run the football.
They could put me back there. I think I could tote the rock better than those 2 running backs.
Oh, my God.
Not Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt be doing his thing for me on all my tickets. Y'all going to hear me talk about my tickets because I like my tickets.
Okay.
We're going to talk about that later. Don't rub it in yet. Don't rub it in yet, kids.
Okay.
Don't rub it in yet, kids.
Careful with them tickets. Careful with them tickets.
We got some news from the Cleveland Browns. You talk about sustainability. I don't think they know how to sustain a quarterback. Being able to take Dillon Gabriel, their 3rd-round pick, and now making him the starting quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. Joe Flacco is going to be the backup, and then Shador, I don't know how you become the backup when you just got demoted from starter, but Shador is now the 3rd-string quarterback. Canty, what's going on with that quarterback carousel? And I think Shador's going to wind up starting eventually, but what's your thoughts?
Well, what's become clear is that Dillon Gabriel is Kevin Stefanski's handpicked quarterback. That's his guy. He's the one that stands on the table when they drafted Dillon Gabriel in the 3rd round. And it's clear that Andrew Berry's guy is Shedeur Sanders. And so when you think back to the optics of that war room on draft day when they took Shedeur, there was an icy stare by both Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski. And everyone took that to mean that they did not want to take him, but that ownership interceded and said, we're taking Shedeur Sanders. Come to find out, it feels like it's a situation, according to people in league circles, where the general manager picked one guy and the head coach picked another guy. And so it's not surprising to me that Dillon Gabriel gets first crack at it because he was the quarterback that was taken first. But it'll be interesting to see the runway that Kevin Stefanski and this Brown organization gives Dillon Gabriel, particularly if the kid struggles out the gate. And from what we know from most rookie quarterbacks, there are going to be struggles. There's going to be inevitable adversity. How this franchise handles that becomes fascinating because there's a versus between the general manager and the head coach on which rookie quarterback they see as the future of that team.
I think they throwing Gabriel to the Wolves. You know who he's playing this week, right?
Oh, he's playing Brian Flores in the Minnesota Vikings defense in London. And keep in mind, the Vikings stayed across the pond because they played the Pittsburgh Steelers in week 4 in Dublin. So they're going from Dublin to London, a lot shorter trip from Cleveland to London. So it'll be interesting to see. Remember, the Minnesota Vikings, when it comes to their overall record in international games, pretty damn good. They're 5-1. So we'll see what ends up happening. Hopefully, Dillon Gabriel handles it well. I never want to see players fail. I want to see all players succeed. But I will acknowledge that there are going to be some challenges that Dillon Gabriel's face. First of all, the offensive line from Cleveland has been shaky at best. The wide receivers, in terms of drop rate, they're at the top of the league. So there are some concerns in terms of the Cleveland Browns supporting cast being able to prop up Dillon Gabriel. And here's my biggest concern for Dillon Gabriel, his size. Size matters. Don't let nobody lie to you. Size matters in everything, but particularly in the National Football League. It's a big man's game, and Dillon Gabriel is not a big man. He's a short king. So being 5'10", 5'11", comes with challenges, and finding ways to navigate around that is going to be big in terms of whether or not he's able to have early success. So that's another thing to keep an eye on. I know a lot of people point to the outlier quarterbacks, Russell Wilson, Drew Brees, guys that were right at 6 foot, maybe a shade below, that have had a lot of success in this league. But by far, there are more guys that are 6 foot or shorter that have failed as quarterbacks than guys that have succeeded. There's a reason why NFL teams have prototypical size, prototypical height, weight measurements. It's because those guys have more success at those respective positions. And so that's going to be interesting to see with Dillon Gabriel. Now, if he's going to have success, it's going to be Kevin Stefanski moving the pocket, moving the launch point, not allowing him to be a sitting duck, putting him in his comfort zone when he can hit his back foot and get the football out when he's under center, and shotgun, making the reads really simple, getting the ball out of his hands and trying to get it to the playmakers on short and intermediate routes. Those are the types of things that Kevin Stefanski is going to have to do if Dillon Gabriel is going to have success early on, particularly in week 5 against a complicated Minnesota Vikings defense.
Starting quarterbacks since 2020 are 1-9. 1-9. Caleb Williams is the only one that got the win. I don't think nobody would have guessed that in their bingo chart. But Caleb Williams is the only rookie quarterback since 2020
He beat Jacksonville in the London game last year. Is that correct?
Yes. So now knowing that that's a very exotic defense, Flores is going to send so many different disguises, so many different things to him. Do you think this will be a game that's going to maybe move the needle more to Shedeur, or is this going to be a game knowing he's handpicked? When you're handpicked, you're going to get a lot more love. You're going to get a lot more leeway, a lot more rope.
Yeah. Here's what I'll say. Shedeur being buried on the depth chart, 3rd string, doesn't surprise me. What folks got to understand is the backup quarterback spot, a big part of the responsibility is getting the starter ready. And I think at this stage in their careers, Joe Flacco is more equipped to do that than Shedeur Sanders. And then the backup quarterback is one hit away from going in the game.
Yeah.
So between Shador Sanders and Joe Flacco, without receiving the lion's share of the first team reps throughout the course of the week in terms of practice, who do you think is more equipped to go in the game and have success if they haven't had a ton of reps with the game plan in practice in the week leading up? Joe Flacco or Shador Sanders? I would put my money on Joe Flacco because of experience. So I think that's the thing that people have to understand. There's a reason why he's still third on the depth chart, and it has nothing to do with his ability or lack thereof to play the position. I think it has everything to do with the circumstances. It's a different thing to give a young quarterback all of the reps in practice leading up to the game to familiarize themselves with the game plan, to get comfortable with it, to be able to go to the coaching staff to tell them what they like, what they don't like, so they can curate the call sheet, all of those things. If you're a young quarterback and you're in that number 2 role and you're thrust into duty and you've got to rock with a call sheet that wasn't tailor-made to you on a game
Mm-hmm.
day against a Brian Flores-led defense, that's not setting you up for success either. So I understand why Shador is not the number 2 quarterback. Now, that said, I don't know what the runway is for Dillon Gabriel. I'd imagine that they give him at least 4 games to show what he is or what he ain't before they turn it over to another quarterback. So remember, the bye week for the Cleveland Browns is in week 9. So it
Mm-hmm.
times out perfectly to give Dillon Gabriel 4 games, and then the organization can pivot. So at that point, if Dillon Gabriel hasn't shown well, the team can turn to Shador Sanders. There's always Joe Flacco. And I think the wild card in all of this is Deshaun Watson. Because based on
Mm.
reports from Mary Kay Cabot, who has the Cleveland Browns beat for the local paper there, who is in the know, the Cleveland Browns have not closed the door on Deshaun Watson playing quarterback for them later on this year when he's healthy. Now, I don't anticipate that to be in the first half of the season. I think that's a second half of the season. Keep an eye on it. But
Yeah.
that's one thing that we also have to be aware of, that the Cleveland Browns have left open the possibility that Deshaun Watson can play for them this year.
Now, what I will say is I totally forgot Deshaun Watson was on that team.
Yeah, most
Like,
people did. Most people
outside of
did.
him pouting on the sidelines, I'm like,
Yeah.
I thought he was home chilling, just
Yeah, listen,
collecting checks.
I thought it was a wrap when the owner said we made a mistake with Deshaun Watson, but then you hear reports that the owner, Jimmy Haslam from the Cleveland Browns, attended Deshaun Watson's wedding this offseason.
Oh, that's love.
So yeah, so when somebody shows up to your wedding, especially a billionaire owner of an NFL team, you know that they don't have to do that. So the fact that he did
No.
do that says something about how he feels about him. So I don't think that the
Mhm.
Browns as an organization had completely closed the door on that. But the reality is this: Cleveland is in a position this year where they need to see exactly what they have in their quarterback room from all involved so they can make an informed decision about their quarterback plan moving forward in the 2026 offseason, where they have 2 first-round picks. So I think that's Cleveland's approach. That's what they should do. And so I anticipate that we're going to see Dillon Gabriel, him get extended run, at some point see Shador Sanders, and maybe, just maybe, at some point see Deshaun Watson as well.
Maybe. But you know what we're about to do? We're about to introduce a new seg. You know, we got 99 problems, but a take ain't one. That's for my guy Canty. Signature win the number 99, big flex. We want to get Canty to sound off on a couple games this week. We got 4 rapid fire games. Canty, what do you think about the 49ers and Rams on Amazon Prime this Thursday?
Oh man, listen, with Brock Purdy out of the game, no Ricky Pearsall as well, this is going to be a good old-fashioned ass whipping. That Rams defensive front going up against Mac Jones, who's banged up in his own right, is going to be a problem. I don't think that the 49ers have a path to being able to win that game, even though from a record standpoint, Kyle Shanahan does pretty well against Sean McVay.
Good NFC West rivalry. Now, Bucs versus Seahawks. What you got?
Man, I am rolling with the Seattle Seahawks. That game is in the Pacific Northwest. That's a tough place to travel to, tough place to play in. I love the way that Seattle's defense is flying around. If there's a weak link in Seattle's armor, it would be Reek Woolen. I know he's got a lot of physical tools, but he has not played well, or at least not up to the level that his talent says he should. and he's going up against what I think is one of the best receivers in the league already in rookie Emeka Egbuka. That dude is a problem. He's in the
Mm-hmm.
conversation for best Ohio State receiver in the NFL right now. And I know I'm saying that with JSN on the other sideline, but Emeka Egbuka is that nice. So, yeah, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have a propensity to be able to win close games. I do anticipate this being a close game, but I think Seattle finds a way to eke it out. Also, got to remember, in week 4, Seattle played on a Thursday night game. So they've had 3 extra days to prepare. And then, of course, Tampa is traveling across the country. So I'm going to give the edge to the Seattle Seahawks in that matchup.
Yeah, we'll see. I think with Godwin coming back, let's see how settled he get, and let's see if that equals to a win for them. But I'm
Godwin's
with you.
back, but no Mike Evans. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, what do you do with that?
Yeah, yeah. You just throw the ball, and you know number two is gonna deuce it. You know, catch it down. Now for Broncos and Eagles, that's another big game this Sunday.
Yeah, measuring stick game for the Denver Broncos. What are you? You know, do we see 2 wins or do we see 2 losses? And that becomes the question. I think early on in the season, Bo Nix had some giveaways, made it hard for that team to win. But the thing that I saw on Monday night against the Cincinnati Bengals is a dominant defense, but then also their ability to run the football. They had a 100-yard rusher for the first time in 38 games. Think about that. The
Mm.
100-yard rusher for the first time in almost 2.5 seasons. So if you give Sean Payton some balance on the offensive side of the ball, he can be deadly. Again, as long as the quarterback doesn't turn the ball over and make consequential mistakes, then I think the Denver Broncos will be in a fourth quarter game with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Fly Eagles fly. I know my boy Dante is listening. I know you want your Eagles to
I
win,
can't. You
but
can't say that, man. You on the hook with a former Cowboy and a former Giant, man. I don't want to hear that crap. Fly Eagles, fly.
this I could just say this because Canty isn't in the room. He can't come grab me up out the
Yeah,
chair.
man. Oh, fly Eagles, fly. Get that crap out of here, man. I don't want
Listen,
to
I'm
hear that
trying to get a
shit.
good Christmas gift this year from my line brother. Let's see if I can work that out.
There you
But
go.
we also got somebody's old that went. We got the Colts versus Raiders. Genty is back to his stance. He's killing right now. Let's see if he can
Yeah,
repeat this week. But who you
yeah.
got for the win, and what you think is going to be the result?
I think the Indianapolis Colts bounce back. I think Daniel Jones, what happened to him in Week 4, the turnovers, it's an aberration. I don't think that's who he is as a player anymore. And I think the personnel around the Colts is a lot better than people want to take note of. And here's the thing: the Colts would have won that game had it not been for AD Mitchell. AD Mitchell, in trying to celebrate before he got to the end zone, fumbled the ball, ends up being a 14-point swing there in the game. And then, of course, at the end of the game, Jonathan Taylor scores a touchdown on what should have been the game sealing play, but AD Mitchell has the play called back because of holding. And so, I mean, I was trying to figure out this week whether AD Mitchell was a plant for Sean McVay, whether he was a sleeper cell for the Rams. It seems like he was cashing checks for LA instead of cashing checks for the Indianapolis Colts. So I hate to be super critical of the young fella, but those are 2 plays that cost your team 2 touchdowns. And then, oh, by the way, that you had a point swing on each one of those moments in the game. So in a 1 possession game, those plays become super critical, and you just can't afford to make those types of mistakes, especially when you're hot dogging. So yeah, I think the Indianapolis Colts get back on the board. They get back to their winning ways in Week 5. I think we're left doing a lot of soul searching and asking difficult questions about where Pete Carroll and the Las Vegas Raiders go from here.
Well, one big topic that we want to discuss is really, and now I'm happy that we talked about Daniel Jones and the Colts, is redemption. Daniel Jones is a part of a long line of New York quarterbacks that had redemption in the last several years. We had Geno Smith getting AP Comeback Player of the Year in 2022. Now he's playing with the Raiders. We had Sam Darnold. He balled out this past week. He did a
Yeah.
great job leading that team down the field. He balled out. And then we have Daniel Jones doing what he's doing at the Colts. Seeing a resurgence in these players, what do you feel about the redemption of where they were drafted, where they were placed, and kind of how now they're showing their strength as quarterbacks in the NFL?
Well, I think people give up on players, but quarterbacks in particular, far too quickly. And I think what you're seeing is more often than not, NFL players are products of their environment. If they go to the right type of environment, if it ends up being a situation where the infrastructure is as such to water and nurture the growth of that individual player, to water and nurture the growth of that person, then you're going to get the best versions of them. But when you're picked high in the NFL draft, especially at that position, there's a mountain of expectations that are heaped onto you. And a lot of these young players aren't equipped to handle all that comes with being a franchise quarterback. Remember, the quarterback is closer to ownership and management than he is the other 52 guys in the locker room. It's a leadership position by nature. It's the default CEO of an NFL team, right? The quarterback has more influence on whether the team wins or loses than anybody else, more than the
Mhm.
head coach, more than the owner, more than the general manager. On any given Sunday, the quarterback has the most influence on the success of the team. So I do think that in a lot of situations, the dysfunction of these franchises becomes toxic for the young quarterbacks and they're not able to get off the ground. But when those quarterbacks move around, all of a sudden the expectations go away. All of a sudden, those guys can work. All of a sudden, now you start to see some of the natural ability shine through and they're able to find their way. That comes with experience, but I also think that comes with changing your environment, changing your perspective. So when we start talking about the redemption arc, from an NFL standpoint or in people's personal lives. I think it's a matter of changing the spaces that you're in and changing your perspective. And that ultimately leads to a better result, more of what you're looking for.
Now, we talked on quarterbacks, but not only quarterbacks have left and seen greener pastures from New York. We had Saquon winning the Super Bowl last year, running for 2,000 yards. We also have Xavier McKinney being able to lead the NFL in interceptions after leaving the Giants. As a
Yeah,
former player, for
not great.
you,
Not great. I don't like that. I don't like to see
yeah,
former Giants thrive in other places because I'm like, damn, why couldn't the motherfuckers do that here in New York? But listen, I'm happy for Saquon. I'm happy for Xavier McKinney. I'm happy for Daniel
mhm.
Jones. The kid went to my high school. I root for him. I'm happy that those guys are able to have success. But as a fan and as a former player, when you see those types of things, it makes you question everything about what your organization is doing from an infrastructure standpoint, from a player development standpoint. Because if those guys have the ability to thrive in our league, what is it that we're doing or we're not doing that keeps them from
Mhm.
thriving when they're with Big Blue?
Now, how much does scheme, city, ownership, in the decades of work that you guys put in before you get to the league matter? Does one weigh more than the other? What's the right combination, especially if you find yourself in the wrong place and then you leave and now you see success?
Well, there's no one size fits all, right? Everybody is different, but it's about an organization that's committed to understanding how different players are motivated in order to try to bring out the best in them, right? Some players need a pat on the back, some players need a kick in the pants. The best organizations know which players are which and know how to give it to them and when to give it to them. And so I think that that's the part where you have to have good people in the building from an organizational standpoint in order to make sure that you get the most out of the players that you bring into your team.
Now, for you, I don't know if we want to call this a redemption arc, but
Mm.
you left the Cowboys. You guys had opportunities. Hope that you had won a championship. We talked about this several weeks ago. That's
Yeah,
one of the biggest things in your career that you wish would have happened. That '05 draft class, y'all would have got a ring together. But you went to the
yeah,
Giants,
yeah.
and you not only went to the Giants, but you slayed the Goliath. You went against Tom Brady, and you also got a sack. It's a nice, cool picture on Google. Please look it up for my guy. But did you feel like that was at the point where you said, "I was worth that pick that the Cowboys, and then I was worth the money that the Giants gave me"? Was that your redemption right there?
I don't know if it was a redemption arc. I think my redemption story starts with how I came into the league, dislocated knee, tore three ligaments, and then having a
Mhm.
detached retina. I think coming into the league with those injuries and then being able to play over a decade in the NFL, being able to be a team captain on a Super Bowl winning team, that's validation. I don't know if I would call it redemption though. The Dallas Cowboys didn't things didn't work out there because Dallas didn't want to pay me what I thought I was worth. They didn't want to pay me
Mhm.
what other teams were willing to give me. And one thing about your boy, I'm a capitalist. I'm trying to get to the bag. I want to win, but I want to get paid too.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I would consider what happened for me a redemption arc with my NFL career. I think um, I think redemption is one of those things we talk about where people have missteps, people make mistakes, and then they find a way to persevere and get past the consequences of those mistakes. And so ultimately, I think when it comes to redemption, in order to give yourself the possibility of redemption, you first have to start with giving yourself some grace. You hold yourself accountable, but you also got to give yourself some grace.
Did you have a big moment in your career where you felt like that's a snapback, that's a comeback? I know they doubted me. I know they didn't think that I was going to be as successful as I was going to be, but you had to have that moment and say, we won't want to call it redemption, but that's the sweetest revenge sometimes to win.
Well, listen, I mean, going back to Dallas and beating the brakes off the Cowboys was great as a New York Giant, and then being able to hold up that Lombardi Trophy, it validated me as a player, but it also validated my decision to get the hell out of that organization and go to a franchise that knew how to win. And I'm not saying that the Dallas Cowboys don't have a rich history, and I'm not saying that they're incapable of winning championships, but when I left in free agency in 2009, the New York Giants had won a championship a couple of years prior to that. And they got to said championship by beating the number one seeded Cowboys, that team that was on that was 13-3, and probably the most talented team that I've ever been a part of. So if anything, I felt justified in making the decision to bounce. I got paid, came back to my hometown and won a chip.
Hmm.
Uh, so yeah, I guess the person that has the last laugh is always going to have the best laugh.
Sweet
Um,
revenge.
that's kind of how it was for me with the Dallas Cowboys.
No, I agree, and I'm not in the arena, but I'm still the man in the arena. Um, and corporate thugging, as we say, is a different level of redemption.
Yeah,
When, as you said, an employer doesn't see your worth, you get an opportunity to show them who you are in that next opportunity. Those that believe in you, you get a little bit more. Like I said with Gabriel, you get a little bit more leeway. You get a little bit more rope. You get a little bit more understanding. It's nothing like when the person picks you. When that
yeah,
person handpicks you, when that person chose you for a specific reason, you get to highlight your superpowers and not your flaws.
yeah.
And then I think you get an opportunity to show your worth and who you can be, not only as a player, as a worker, but also as a man, and just being able to stand on business. And that's what we want to be able to do every day. Be able to show our worth.
So you just want to be chose, huh?
Nah, I don't want to be chose, but I like to pick.
You like the motherfucker in the club that just want to be chose.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I want to get the drinks. I like to be chose. What is it? I'm the prize. I'm the prize.
Ooh,
I'm the prize.
ooh.
That's what I like to
Okay,
say. I'm the
I hear
prize.
you, Noopy. I hear you. I hear you.
Listen, we that when I like to say I'm the prize, that means that it's time to get out of here because I don't think I'm gonna be the prize if I get back upstairs to my wife 2 hours later, or
Yeah,
Canty either.
you
So
sound like you cruising for an ass whipping. That's what that sounds
yeah, yeah,
like.
yeah. We don't need that. But we're gonna talk about wins
Nah.
and losses. We're gonna talk
All
about
right.
these wins and losses. Canty, what's your win for the week?
Oh, my big win, Jaxson Dart, baby. Giants have opened their heart to Jaxson Dart. Let's go. Jaxson Dart stepping up, getting it done. Brian Daboll talked about wanting to have his handpicked quarterback, guy that reminded him a lot of Josh Allen when he had him up in Buffalo when he was a coach up there, an assistant. Jaxson Dart showed all of that. He showed the movement skills, showed the ability to play make, got a live arm, put the ball on the money. But more importantly, the enthusiasm that the kid plays with is infectious. So big winners, New York Giants, Jaxson Dart.
For me, my win for the week, I'm actually gonna give a personal win. Shout out to my little cousin, Justin McDuffie. He's also a Noop Ace Club, University of Charleston. He got his first start. We talked about redemption. We also talked about overcoming adversity. He was able to go from JUCO to now being able to go to the school that he's at now, and being able to start this week and did some good work, some good yards, some TDs, and I'm happy to see him grow. So shout out to him and some of the good things he's doing on the field. Now,
Very, very cool.
somebody got to take an L.
Yeah.
I'll save my L because you're gonna laugh at me. But what's your,
Okay.
what's your L for the week, Canty?
So my L is the Miami Dolphins, and it's crazy because they got their first win of the season in Week 4 of Monday Night Football against the New York Jets, but they lost their best player, Tyreek Hill, for the season, dislocated knee. Tyreek Hill Don't know him well. Wish him all the best. Hope he gets better. But that's going to be tough for the Miami Dolphins to be able to overcome that. Tyreek Hill seemed like a player that was poised to be moved ahead of the trade deadline. And it seems like he was a guy that would have had value to teams that thought they were contending for a championship. Now the Dolphins aren't going to be able to flip him. Tyreek Hill is in a contract year. So they essentially lit $27 million on fire. They paid him a $15 million bonus at the end of August to keep him on the roster. They're not going to get a return on that investment or any of that money. So it just seems really, really sad in terms of how things went down for Tyreek Hill with the Miami Dolphins, because they didn't do what they thought they would do when they traded for him from the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, and I hate to see that, especially with a speedster. That kneecap, I don't know how much it's going to take away from his weapons, but he may never be Cheetah again. Um, as you guys can see, I have a somber voice. My L, my L is on behalf of the Virginia Cavaliers, Canty School, the team he played
Yeah,
for.
where that
Uh,
one? Where
so
that
I,
one?
I am king of mega parlays, and I made a good money line parlay, and all I
Mm,
needed was Florida State, number
mm,
18 Florida State, to
mm.
beat number 24 Virginia.
How'd that work out for you?
Uh, let's just say it didn't work out good. A negative
Okay.
260, that sounded like good odds to me. I was like, oh, negative 260, I'll take that. But I should have called Canty on the phone because he had insiders. I should say, Canty, what should I do? $8 was going to give me 3,000. That's how much stupid parlays I do, by the way, anybody. All my
Yeah.
parlays are crazy like that. I text Canty and said, I think I got a problem. I don't think he was going to give me a reimbursement for my bad ticket. But
Nah.
Canty, tell me about them Cavaliers. How you feel about your team?
Listen, man, I told you when I went down there during spring ball, when I was down there for the preseason, had a chance to talk to the team, had a chance to be around them for practice. And I told you, they got a kid in Chandler Morris that can spin it. Their quarterback is nice. He started out at Oklahoma, transferred to North Texas, set a bunch of records there, then came over in the portal. He goes back, way back with Tony Elliott. Tony Elliott coached with his dad once upon a time. So they've been knowing each other for a really long time. Chandler Morris known Tony Elliott for most of his life. So the fact that he came over and Tony Elliott was able to turn over the team that he did, the way he did, over 50 new players on the team with signees and transfers, they have shifted the culture at Virginia. And those guys believe that they can win in any given game because they got Chandler Morris as their quarterback. And that's how they went out there and played. The receivers are like that. The running game is like that. Defensive playmakers are like that. And we showed it. We had an opportunity to upset a top 10 ranked Florida State team in Charlottesville. We don't do that very often, but when we do it in a big way. And we saw that in the ACC game of the week in Friday night football.
Yeah, you guys upset my ticket. Very much upset my
Don't
ticket.
bet against the Who's, baby. Don't bet against the Wahoos, baby. Don't do that to yourself. Don't do it ever again.
I've learned my
Don't do it ever
lesson.
again.
And I hope you
Yeah.
guys all learned some lessons listening to the show, watching the show. We thank you guys for rocking with us this week. Canty, let them know where they can find you at and what you got going on.
Oh, man, check me out on Sportsmanlike weekday mornings from 6 to 10 a.m. on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU. You can catch me on all the social media handles at Chris Canty99, all platforms. And then, of course, you can always find our content at the In My Defense podcast. Check us out
Say
on
it
all
again.
social. My In My Defense podcast. You can catch us on all the social media handles and on YouTube. When you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Every Friday, catch us Spotify, YouTube, Apple. If you're watching now, like he said, like, subscribe. We're going to keep saying it. Like, subscribe. We're trying to get our likes and subscribers up. I feel bad about my ticket. I did not get the 3 racks, but it's nothing personal in my defense.